So I've got the 6 straightest arrows from the dozen. I'm just going to go through and build them out. So one of the first things we'll do before we start gluing them, we'll get our squaring tool from ASD or G5, it's the ASD flip, and we'll just go through and square up the knock end and then also square up the pointy end of the arrow. I'll go through, I'll do the rest of these, and then we'll come back and we'll put the inserts in. So they're all nice and square now. Try and bang out some of that carbon. If you can see in my hand there, it's covered in a bit. Now we'll go and clean the inside of those. I've just got a bit of general alcohol here. We'll just put a little bit in the cap and then get a Q-tip and just go in, get that nice and wet, and then get down inside the shaft. Give it a good once over. You can see how black that's coming out. We'll do it on both ends. Some would argue you just need to do it on the end you're putting your insert, but hey, we're here, so we might as well do both. All right, so this is the last of them. You see this one's coming out pretty dirty. That's all the carbon that builds up on the inside. When your local arrow shop or your local archery shop cut them, hey, shout out to First Flight Archery, Leslie, John and John down there. They always look after me when I go in. Support your local archery shop. When you get into trouble, they're the ones that bail you out, so make sure you're supporting them so they can stay in business. Very good. So now that we've got that done, I'll get this alcohol out of the way. We'll get in and we'll get stuck into these inserts. Just getting those pliers, grabbing on, grab it with your thumb and your finger, and they just snap off. This brass is pretty easy to work with. They've made this pretty easy to take from 75 down to 50. So we'll just get this last one done. Cool. Now we'll go ahead and we'll glue these in. So I like to use the epoxy when I'm doing these hit inserts versus a super glue. I find that it's a little more forgiving. It's not as brittle when it dries, and also the work time with it's a bit longer. You can see here once I mix it in, goes that milky color. But then all I have to do is just coat that hit insert a little. Make sure I get a good covering down all sides. Take some of that excess off. Slowly put that in. Make sure you're twisting as you go. Get a good solid coating across the whole insert itself. And we'll get the tool. Make sure we seat it all the way down, twist it a few times. Make sure we clean off that epoxy on the very front. We'll probably give that one more go over on the arrow squaring tool at the end. And I'll let these dry overnight. I'll leave them laying flat on the table so the insert itself doesn't slide further down if I had them sitting upright, or out to the front if I had them nose down on the ground. I'll clean up here and we'll come back tomorrow, and with the magic of television and video footage, we'll get stuck into the next section. We'll be doing a bit of knock tuning and then we'll put the fletching on and hopefully get out in the field and get a good one this year. So 4 slight tear, 1's a bullet hole, 5 tiny little tear, 2's a bullet hole, 6 maybe a little bit tear up, number 3 is another bullet hole. Getting to the back end here, we're going to put some vanes on them. We'll take one of these wipes, well look at that, come to the end. We'll give these a thorough clean down on the back end to take away any of the oil that's built up. And you'll note I'm keeping the end of the shaft off the table here so it doesn't collect anything that's on the table on it. After I do these shafts, I'm going to do the same thing on the vanes that I've put out. Now I'll show some footage here, but I weighed these knock-on vanes, the Max Stealths, and they were about a grain lighter than the non-knock-on version. Interesting that there's a full grain difference. Both manufactured by AAE, you'll see it in the close-up video here, but the knock-on ones were about 8.4 grains each, and the non-branded ones, just the pure AAE, were about 9.2, so 0.8, no, we'll just call it 1 grain for argument's sake difference. So I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to use these knock-on ones. I had just enough to do these 6 arrows, which is good. So anyway, if you're trying to drop an extra 4 grains out the back, there's a pretty good way to do it. I'll get stuck in, do the rest of these, and then we'll get the jig out, the glue, prime a pen, and we'll wrap this up. Now that we've gone and cleaned those, we'll get in with the primer pen. If I push that down, you can see the liquid coming out. That primer pen fits perfectly in the base groove of these Max Stealth Vanes. So there's the last vane primed. Now we get into final step here, and that's gluing the vanes on. Here we go. So we'll pick up that first arrow. I'm not going to touch the back end again, given I just spent that time and effort to clean it. So I put it in the main jig itself. There's markings on here that show you how far up the vane is going inside the clamp. I like to come up to the second marking on the bottom. I haven't put any glue on this yet, and the intent here is to stick it on and make sure I've got good connection across the whole length of that vane. So now that I know I'm going to get a good connection, I can go ahead and glue up the length. I like to come back down, just dabbing it. You can hear this click on with the magnet, and then I'll seat the base of it first and push forward. We'll hold that there for about 15 seconds. I like to just hold it to make sure I've got a good seal. Undo the clamp, and there we go, we've got the first one on. And I'll let you come and see that, and then I'll just get stuck into the rest. So that's the last one, and this first arrow. Like I said, I do like to dab a little bit of the glue on the front of each one of these vanes. There you have it. So I'll get in, I'll do the rest of these. And if you like this sort of content, like and subscribe, it helps me out. Appreciate all the support. Cheers.